Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we continue our series making a case for why each Primarch is the greatest, with Horus Lupercal, Primarch of the Lunar Wolves. A general spoiler warning to begin here, as today we will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned, and with that said, let's just jump straight in. Well, for all the installments of this series so far, for all the personal preferences we have or achievements of the Primarchs in particular, there's only one Primarch who was said to be the greatest, who was the only universal choice for Warmaster amongst the Primarchs. A brother who, if one had to be chosen and elevated above the rest, it was clearly and undoubtedly him. And that was Horus Lupercal. We can love Sanguinius, Russ, Guilliman, Magnus, whoever, but the simple, undeniable fact is, Horus was the greatest. His star shone brighter than any other. Beneath his leadership, the Lunar Wolves achieved the greatest record of victories within the Great Crusade. And yes, an argument can be made it was only because they were there from the very beginning, by the Emperor's side. But that's exactly why the Lunar Wolves and future sons of Horus were the best. Because Horus learnt everything the Emperor could teach him. Alone out of all the Primarchs, Horus Lupercal was raised beneath the Emperor's instruction, his tutelage, his guidance. While every other brother was struggling for survival upon a far-flung world, battling their way to conquer, Horus was already basking within the Emperor's golden light, receiving tutelage no other would ever receive. And don't give me that Alfarius First story. Horus is clearly and definitively referred to and stated to be the first found by the Emperor and Malcador throughout the end of the Siege of Terror. It's absolutely conclusive. Horus was and always will be the first found son. He had to be. And in a galactic spanning rivalry of warrior egos, the Lunar Wolves were viewed as the best of the best, man for man, warrior for warrior, whether willingly or begrudgingly. And that is the perfect mirror for Horus amongst his brothers. No other brother was as complete, as fully rounded as Horus. He had the stubborn streak of Perturabo, the temper of Angron, the rational thinking of Magnus, the aggression of Russ, the skill of Lionel Johnson, the statesman of Guilliman, the flair of Fulgrim, the determination of Rogel Dawn, the durability of Ferrus Manus, the spark of surprise like Korax or Jagatai, and all encompassed beneath the charisma of a Sanguinius. Horus Lupercal had to be Warmaster because he was the only right choice. Perhaps if all the other Primarchs had benefited of decades by the Emperor's side, they too might have become so complete. But they didn't. And they weren't. Horus was. He was the only Primarch capable of unifying all the Primarchs. There's a great piece in Sanguinius' Primarch novel on why Horus was the choice over the Angel, and it's a great explanation and little insight for the natural, human element of charisma that Lupercal had. I saw then what was truly different about the two Primarchs. Horus was human, in the broadest sense. His movements were natural, his good humour evident. He looked like the kind you might take for a drink, share stories of old conquests or youthful exploits. It was foolish. Someone like him would never end up with someone like me in a social setting. But you could imagine it. Sanguinius, though, never lost that air of reserve. He was polite. He was soft-spoken. He was intelligent. But he was somehow above it all, gazing out at the world from an interior state of unknowable diffidence. So that was one reason why Horus had been made Warmaster. That mystical quality of being liked. Hard to overstate how important that was for buying loyalty, even in the hard-nosed atmosphere of the Imperial Army. A trooper would fight well enough for any general who didn't abuse them. But one like this, one who could make you feel you were valued and important, and had his consideration, even for a second, that was priceless. Sanguinius naturally inspired absolute admiration in anyone who met him, but it was a rarefied kind of emotion, almost like religious devotion. You wanted to know that he existed, somewhere out there, doing what needed to be done. But you didn't necessarily want to meet him, or find yourself talking to him. You'd be tongue-tied, overwhelmed, unsure where to look. And I think the Primarch of the Blood Angels was aware of this. And I think that then, more than ever, this was because he was working hard, all the time, to maintain the persona that we expected him to have. Whereas Horus was simply being himself, naturally impressive, handsome without being beautiful, energetic without being manic. He had no extra work to do to achieve it, no immersion into the creative arts in order to sublimate his tortured heritage, just the easy, slightly rakish charm of a natural leader. One who swam in political waters as easily as he dominated the battlefield. It's a fantastic little piece of observation and insight, and from the awesome author Chris Wright you'd expect no less. But it's that naturalness for Horus that's the highlight for me. How it's all just so natural to him, that for all that luxury of experience with the Emperor, it's also combined with just who he is. The Primarch he was created to be. The brother above all others. And why wouldn't he be? The Emperor had always planned to leave the Crusade. To need a Warmaster. Why wouldn't he have created a Primarch specifically for that role? And there's another moment within Mortarian's Primarch novel, where Horus and Sanguinius had been sent to appraise Mortarian for his brutal conquest of Galaspar, where Mortarian is arguing with Sanguinius, and Horus just cuts in, shutting them both up. And it's a moment where you can just see and feel the Warmaster within him, how he just was naturally a commander over the rest. "Enough," Horus shouted. "Enough," he said again, more quietly, and with true sorrow. "It is all far beyond enough. We have seen enough. We know enough. Mortarian, you have done enough." Horus lowered his head for a moment, then looked up, regretful yet determined. "Our father seeks the compliance of all inhabited worlds, with the goals and the dream of the Imperium. There is compliance here, but not with that dream. Instead, there is a wasteland, and a population consumed by their fear of the Imperium, of the embodiment of death. Hear me, Mortarian. The conquest of Galaspar will be forever marked as a tragedy of the Great Crusade. It will never be celebrated. It will be the work of generations for the Imperium to undo what you have done here. You are censured, Mortarion, and your first command will be commemorated by mourning. Again, when you see this Horus Lupercal, these moments, it really becomes clearer and clearer that he was always going to be Warmaster. That he was made to be the best. Perhaps not in one particular area, but in totality, in combination. And his record, his achievements, his history reflects that. Let's be real here, could any other Primarch have led a traitor heresy to the very doors of the throne room? And really think about that. Sanguinius was loved, but not by all, as shown here with Mortarion, and not quite in the same way as Horus was. Guilliman and Dawn had the tactical ability, but they didn't have the charisma to unify their brothers, persuade them. Whatever way you look, no other brother could have in truth have led a successful heresy. Again, it was only Horus. And in a way, it's that heresy that prevented us from getting showcase after showcase of Lupercal's greatness, like we have throughout the series with all the loyal Primarchs. Horus, as we know, spent most of it off strategizing or communing with the ruinous powers, becoming infused with their power. Even his epic achievements within the series, such as fighting within the warp for centuries, could be argued away, and the glimpses we've received of the Lupercal before have been all too fleeting. But there's a very real reason Rogel, all the way back on the throne world, knew it would come down to a fight for Terra's survival. Because he knew Horus, and he knew of all his brothers, Horus would not and could not be stopped. That he was the one Primarch who could win it all. It's kind of funny in a way that the Horus heresy is a testament to Horus's greatness, but also the very thing that prevented us seeing more of it. A pure, pre-chaos Horus Lupercal, fighting off the ruinous powers across the galaxy, fighting and defeating traitor brothers, getting the epic moments throughout the series that other brothers would. We've had a few flashbacks, but it's never quite lived up to the legacy he deserves. But for me, the fact that it is the Horus heresy speaks for itself. For sure he needed the powers of chaos to compete with his father, but it was the will of Horus, the determination, the resolve that took him to that final confrontation. It was why we got that glimpse of Lupercal when he was stabbed by the Emperor's spear, to show that it wasn't just chaos, it was Horus Lupercal. And that is why no other Primarch can ever compete with him. That is why he was the greatest. But as always everyone, what do you think? Was Horus created to be the best amongst the Primarchs? Was it always intended? Or was it due to his time by the Emperor's side? Was it the personal tutelage he received that led to his greatness? And do you feel he would have achieved it regardless if all the Primarchs were raised upon terror by each other? Is the Horus heresy the legacy that speaks for itself? And is perhaps the moment of his stabbing by Russ the real revelation of Horus's true greatness? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.